Welcome to the Independent Rep Podcast, the podcast for medical sales reps, distributors, and growth-minded manufacturers who want to succeed in today's changing market. Hosted by John Wilson, former OR rep and now medical device recruiter, this show dives into what's really working out in the field, from deal making to distributor dynamics and everything in between. If you're building your career or your company in medtech, you're in the right place.
All right, so today I have Ed Novicelli. He is an experienced veteran in the medical device sales with both W-2, 1099 experience, as well as managing 1099 teams for manufacturers across a slew of products and different service lines. So I'm excited to talk to you about that, Ed. To start off with, could you give me a little bit about your background and how you got into medical sales?
Yeah, so I was actually an engineer by education, and my brother-in-law was a spine rep in New York City. And he was approached by a Zimmer spine distributor for Connecticut. And he said, hey, you want to come back home? I have an opening in Connecticut. And Greg was like, no, I'm good. But I've got a brother-in-law who's a sales engineer, and he'd be a good fit for us. He's good with procedure and protocol, and he'd be a great fit for your team. I met with him, got hired, and lo and behold, I was a spine rep right from the get-go. So I didn't start like as an ortho or something else. I jumped right into spine. That was my first med device job. I mean, I was a pharma rep. I had done some things as far as with Olympus or various companies, but as a true med device rep, that was my first role.
So just straight into spine.
Right.
That's right into the fire. What was that, a W-2 role or a distributor's role?
That was a W-2 for a distributor.
Okay. Got it.
So the training was the training. You know, I did get to go to Zimmer Spine School, University, and those things, and it was good to start that way. But initially, I was shadowing cases. I was covering cases in Boston and going with other reps. And, you know, the guys that I worked with became my mentors, and women too. But like, you know, John Parham, still a distributor, been around for a long time. He was a PA. So I would ask questions like, well, how'd you get that doc? Or what was your sales approach? What was this? And he's like, well, I was his PA for 9 years. I'm like, oh, I can't repeat that. Or how'd you get that doc? Oh, I knew this person. I'm like, I can't repeat that. So I was trying to figure out how do you win cases? How do you get doctors? You know, back then we could still, if you had a case in the hospital, you could kind of wander the hall a little early and maybe bump into a doctor and say, hey, I'm the new guy from Zimmer. Hey, I'm the new Zimmer guy. I was lucky where Dr. Paul Schwartz was coming up from New Jersey as well. And that was kind of why they needed a rep for Zimmer in Connecticut. That was kind of the combination. So I had one surgeon to go off of, to work with, to start. But he was just establishing his business. So he wasn't like, you know, cranking and doing all the stuff. He was fresh out of school, ready to go. It was his first role. And so that's how I got into the business. You know, Greg's in Florida now, and he's been doing well with Legacy Spine and Zimmer Products, or High Ridge now, as it's called. And, you know, he's also a mentor. I'll bounce up ideas. And he's much younger than I am. So it's kind of funny to go back, me being the old guy with the gray goatee, and I go back and call him and say, hey, Greg, what's going on? Or those kind of things.
Well, that just shows that you like to learn. And I think that drives a lot of success. Go back, because I think a lot of people have that same problem when you're going in and you're trying to win relationships. You're trying to start a relationship with a doctor, and you had kind of like your first doctor, like you said, Dr. Schwartz. How did you grow off of that? Do you think it was the strength of just tell me, what do you think you did?
I kind of go back to, I'm an engineer by education. So I do like protocol procedures. I'm good with like the nuts and bolts of things. I also have a thing where a shortcut has to be above the board shortcut. Like I try to cut the corner, but I'm not going to get in trouble for it. I'm not going to, it's ethically, you know, I've never done a side deal. Any KOL I was involved with was a KOL company person. They weren't like tied in some other way. So I kind of say, like, every night I go to bed, I never worry that the, you know, DOJ or someone's come knock on my door. Hey, by the way, this deal you made is not, you know, valid, kind of thing. But the hardest thing I think is it's just the time. You know, you're establishing that rapport with people. You see them. You don't always sell to them right away. Because I got in the industry later, I think I had some sales experience and realized that you can't close everyone on that initial meeting. You don't go to the scrubs and think, hey, Dr. So-and-so, I'm the new person from Zimmer. You should use my plate. You know, you just don't do that. You kind of introduce yourself, find out what they're using, find out like the rep's their cousin, find out whatever, get whatever intel you can, kind of thing, and kind of go from there. Like, even like, you know, back in the early days, I call it the tuck and roll. You walk in with your brochure, you tuck it under your arm, walk in, you roll in, you're all cool. You throw it over the counter, you roll out, and that was your sales call, because that's what people did. We were literally tossing brochures over counters to people. But I would go maybe sidestep it and ask, like, well, how does a doctor find out about either new technology or new people in the geography? Does he even care? And then from there, I'd kind of like, okay, if the front desk person was like, all right, I don't care. Okay, next. There's someone else. There's someone
Yeah.
else. You know.
Well, and that's funny. I love the tuck and roll. I've definitely been doing that, and I have the sense that 95% of that just goes in the trash, and the doctor doesn't even see it, right?
Circular file. Yes, it gets
Yeah.
circularly filed. So it
Yeah.
goes into the trash.
I'm glad I'm not the only one
Yeah.
who's done that.
You
And I
know,
love it.
but today I think it's even harder for someone who's coming up
Yeah.
because of doctors are busy, reimbursements are lower, their time is constrained, they have things to do, they've got, if they're a hospitalist, they've got hospital work to do besides just seeing patients and caring for patients and, being the surgeon in the room and getting cases set up and going through that pipeline. So I think today you've got to use something else. The something else is whether it's LinkedIn or social media or something to connect with them. So, today if I was starting out, I'd try to establish a really good online rapport and build my personality or my offering online. And from there, ideally, you're touching the doctors by following or connecting with, and they see you or something, or you connect. But it's not an easy job. It's one of those things where it's I think it's the hardest sales job in the world, because you can finally get to the doctor. The doctor says, Ed, that sounds good. I'm going to book a case with you. But then you're like, oh, wait a minute, that committee, clinical, well management, GPOs, all those things are stacked against you. And you got to kind of go through and check the box. And you got to hope that whatever product you have has a lot of those to check off so you can go forward. Otherwise, it is the hardest job to sell, I believe.
Yeah, I agree with that. Going from, your first spine job, walk me through the progression where you went 1099, managing 1099. What are some of these steps that you took to get independent, took or were forced to take?
Yeah, it wasn't a pathway I chose. It was a survival kind of thing, I worked for that Zimmer spine distributor. Then he had some situations where it looked like the distributorship was going away. At one point, we got Zimmer acquired. This is back when Zimmer acquired Abbott. So now you had the Abbott distributor and the Zimmer distributor fighting each other for the territory, and the reps in the area were kind of up in the air. I mean, I got lucky where somehow the Zimmer person, since they kind of used Zimmer acquired Abbott, so we're in charge. And I ended up gaining, two surgeons from that because they were KOLs for Abbott. And then I learned the hard lesson of back and forth. The question was about the pathway. So the pathway was the Zimmer thing closed. I then went to Integra, and I was selling biologics. So I went because they were a vendor of this distributor.
What year was that?
What's that?
What year was that where you started selling biologics?
17 years ago, 18, roughly.
Okay.
So that was like Mosaic, and it was like when they had reverse phase media. They were the first ones to kind of do a reverse phase media product for a base. And
so tell me, break
then.
down, if you can, kind of like what biologics is for in spine.
Biologics in this form, it's either the mineralized bone matrix, which is basically cancellous bone chopped up, and it's used for increasing fusion. It could be structural, it could be, and then biologic as an industry, it's crazy now. You've got, plenty of synthetics out there. You've got cellular-based products. You've got, the synthetics where like an Ostezyme, Eric Paterno has, or, and now I'm actually have Trinity Orthopedics, which is a bone harvester. So we're actually using just cancellous bones. Biologics as a whole in spine is for fusion. So it's all about
have
fusion
the bone
and
grow.
helping provide a bridge to grow bone. So that's the biggest thing with biologics.
Got it.
And then I got poached back into metal because as an engineer, I like metal. I mean, I know how to manufacture screws, so I like metal. I went to a Stryker distributor for a short period of time. They ended up losing their one product line, and they gave my geography to a rep who had worked longer for the company. So I was last guy out, first guy out. Last guy in, first guy out kind of thing. That's when I got forced into the hand of 1099. So it was either sink or swim. I liked the industry. I thought it was a good industry to be in. So how do I make this work? So I had a non-compete. And the non-compete was 100-mile radius from my house. So for me to go to work, I used to drive to Albany, New York to make sales calls. So It's a 2.5-hour ride to start my day. And I was on my own. So it was literally like go up in the morning, like leave at 5-ish, and then drive up there, knock on doors, make calls, and then drive home every day. That's
what products, what type of products did you have?
Still doing spine, different spinal hardware and same thing, biologics, trying to make something work. Just trying to grasp onto any straws I could. I worked out Dr. Genovese up in Albany, and he was a great guy, great person to learn from. He loved to teach reps, and he was actually my very first case before Dr. Schwartz got ready in Hartford. And he brought me into the OR on a different case that wasn't mine. My ACDF got switched, and it was a Chiara, which I had no idea what it was. I'm like, oh yeah, sounds good. I'll go in. No idea. I walk in the room, peel myself against the wall, like stick against the wall, like that's not my case. Stay out of the way as much as I can. He's like, no, get up here. I want you to stand behind me and look over my shoulder. I was like, okay, like very first case. I did it. At one point, he's talking to me, and I'm not responding because I was so like amazed at what I was looking at. I was just
You said a
looking down.
Chiari case?
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, so like the skull where they were.
correct. You know, skull
Okay.
base.
Yeah.
And I'm watching, and all of a sudden, I kind of notice it's quiet. I look up, and the PA is like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, why?" And he's like, "What?" Because you didn't say anything for the last 10 minutes. I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm fine." And they were asking me questions, and I was like, I wasn't responding because I was just so like focused and engrossed on the whole like what was going on. So it's really wild. And then we did my case with him, and it was fine. But, so again, I'm sorry, I'm getting kind of off track here.
Yeah, no, that's great.
So I did 1099 rule, and then you look at it when you're by yourself. You only make money when you're doing something. So you got to find ways to have other people collaborate with you and try to build a workforce. So I started like reaching out to other reps, like, hey, I know you're primarily this. I have this. What do you think? I'll give you a certain percentage. I'd make deals with people. Now the challenge is that there's no control. I'm not paying a salary. I get it. So it's like it's hit or miss. They get a piece from me when they sell something. Ideally, if I can help them sell something, then I can give them a piece, and it works out. But also, a lot of times, there's no loyalty. So people you would think you'd sign up for something, next thing you know, they contact the company directly. And if you didn't have a good rapport with the company, they would say, well, yeah, the strong relationships with that guy, so they'll go with that person instead. I didn't do contracts initially. I'm like, we're just supposed to be like colleagues, friends, people that work together. That's almost like I call it herding cats.
Absolutely.
You're
Yeah,
trying to get
that's
someone's attention
yeah.
you can't dictate to them. You can't tell them what to do. As a 1099, you can't even require a call report. So you have no idea actually where they're going unless you know based on their call pattern and so forth. But
That is
that
a
is really,
yeah,
a
that's
challenge.
the I think that lesson that you just described. How many years did you do that where you were
I've done it
making
off and
those?
on for probably 10 years.
Yeah. I That's a skill because I don't know a lot of people that have the patience and the ability to manage that. A lot of people I know just get sick of it and stop because you have good relationships with other reps. Like you said, there's no loyalty. They might just go straight to the manufacturer and say, "Hey, I have a better relationship with these doctors. I should have this product." That's a real, it gets into the murky side of this business.
It does. It also teaches you a lesson that business is business.
Yeah.
It's not personal.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if if you take something too personal, you'll be always beating yourself up. I mean,
Mhm.
you just got to roll with it. I don't know the actual Japanese term, but I know it's fall down 7, get up 8. And if you don't do that, it's just how this world is. I mean, med device is a contact sport, and if you can't roll the punches, this is not the place to be. It's just hard. But it's also very rewarding too. So if you get that opportunity, like I have a really good bond with one surgeon. I do cases with him. When I do cases, I think like someone will say to me, "Hey, what's the best day in the OR?" And I'm like, "When I don't speak." I'm like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Because everything's going right. Like they're not looking for an instrument. The flow of the case is going well. There's not a problem. They haven't encountered something where it's like, oh, this is not right, or struggling with an instrument. That's a great day to me. I mean, the patient's going to do well because the doctor hasn't had any kind of hiccup whatsoever with your stuff, So therefore, like that's a great day. I mean, obviously, I joke about it, but I think those are the best days
You've solved
because
all the problems ahead of time.
right, the techs are comfortable with me. They're comfortable with the instruments. The doctor knows the flow. That the tech's not looking for instruments. We have either had a chance to set it up before the case starts to help them like lay the trays out in a certain way or pull the certain instruments out the doctor uses. So all those things kind of add up. And I think a best day for a rep is just not the talk. I could be one of the anomalies thinking this way, but as far as in the case, I think that's the best thing. And all the focus on the patient because we're just we're on the outside looking in. We're there to support. Selling stops at the door. Any rep who sells inside the OR past those doors, no thanks. No
I
thanks.
think there's a lot of surgeons that agree with you that a good day is when the reps don't, in the OR don't speak.
Well, I think it's obviously your conversation has to add to the case.
You're right.
You're not there to talk about your weekend and how you went and took a kid somewhere or whatever, but you're there about the case. That's all it is about. And I got in trouble early. I've been told to shut up. I mean, it happens. You learn though. You don't do it twice, especially on the same case. So.
No, really, it's time for you to be quiet. You can go out. Um, what are you doing right now with your 1099 business? And tell me what you're up to right now, because you've said a few things to me on LinkedIn. I'd like to know kind of from your words, like your perspective, what you're
Yeah,
hoping
so
to
I mean, right
accomplish.
now I'm kind of I'll say under contract to support various companies, and the main one is Trinity Orthopedics. That's the Corex bone harvester. I'm helping them, build their distribution network. So I'm on contract with them. And then as a distributor, I still have some other lines. I still have Icotech for carbon fiber screws, and I still have some biologics with a couple docs, Bioventus. So, I still kind of keep my hand on both sides of it, where I'm not really in the OR on a daily basis, because number one, the cases aren't there because the cases are unique. It's spine oncology. And then there's some things that I'm working on as far as with other people collaborating, and hopefully we'll be launching, soon, kind of things. It, it's as an independent. Going back to that, like I'm very fortunate. I have a great partner, my wife. She has, as I call it, the stable job.
Hmm.
So like through my up and down career, she's always been like the rock. And she's also my accountant, which is good and bad because she knows the numbers. So she'll be like, "Hey, it's a little late this month. What's going on?" She'll ask that question. So sometimes those dinner conversations are a little awkward, but for the most part, you have to have a good partner in crime. I'm very
Absolutely.
blessed, and then she manages me and helps me stay on track. I'll just say that.
I think that often goes unspoken, but your partner in marriage in this business does need to be a pretty solid person.
Yeah, and
Put up with the
like
hours and the ups and downs.
yeah, and like many times, you go into the OR. Okay, the case is supposed to start at 11. Things happen. Case, cuts scan at 1. Next, thing you know, it's 5 o'clock, and you're supposed to be home for some event or do something, and you're sending a message outside the OR going, "Yeah, we're running close to done," or whatever, and you finish when you finish. I mean, unfortunately, where she understands it 100%. Like she knows, like I'm not just hanging out. Like it's not like I have control over this, and we've never had an issue with that. I mean, I've been also lucky where spine in Connecticut is not like a New York City trauma where it's 24/7. And it was a good, when I was strictly a spine hardware rep, it was a good life where you were just kind of, you have a 7 o'clock case or maybe whatever. And normally you're home unless you had dinner or some events with doctors kind of thing. But no, I was lucky. I got to go to most of my kids' sporting events and didn't miss many. So it was very fortunate and, grateful for that. And I guess, it's funny because like, you'll see people post, "Oh, you're supposed to do gratitude on that." And I think as I'm getting older and maybe more grays coming up, I did to kind of realize like, hey, I was lucky. Okay, I got lucky with this situation. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
Manage my
Gratitude. I
wife
have
and situation.
a few white hairs myself, and I think gratitude
Yeah,
does come with those actually.
yeah. The job causes it too, I think. But
That's for sure. Go tell me about these 1099 distributor networks that you're helping build out for a product, or for a manufacturer. How do you go about that?
yeah.
And what are you looking for?
So it's a two-pronged approach. Sometimes what we'll do is approach a surgeon first, and then based on data we get from various sources, whether it's a trade show or a product like Acuity or something like that, where you can kind of go and say, okay, I have this product. These certain CPD codes are done for this product. So let's find some doctors who are doing this, high use doctors. So you find that data, but whatever you use, definitive, Acuity, whatever, whatever. And then from there, you try to approach the surgeon. Now, some you can email, you're lucky to email you back. Some you can have on LinkedIn, or you go to a trade show. As my geography for Corex is Maine to Florida, Alabama to Wisconsin. I can't drive around and do that all the time. But, it's not going to happen. The company doesn't always spend that kind of money, so you'd be more efficient. So you approach a surgeon. That's one. You approach a surgeon, and then your own network through the years. So I'll call someone I know. And it's like, "Hey, I got this new product. What do you think?" "Nope, can't support that." "Do you know a guy or a person?" "No." And you do that cascade down. Who knows who? So like the 6 degrees of Ed Novaselli, who am I going to know, and who knows who, and what's the connection, and where can I find someone that could sell this product? And you just do that, and that's just whether it's not dialing for dollars, like I'm not on the phone just constantly dialing people. But I am either digital touch by an email, a text message. Do you know someone? I've got a guy out in Buffalo where a doctor kind of responded to us like, "Hey, do you know this doctor?" He's like, "I don't really know him, but I've dealt with him in the past." "Well, I know you, so I'm not going to drive 6 hours to show him the product. You want to be a distributor?" "Yep, great. Go take care of him," kind of thing. So there's not one path. That's the long-ended
Yeah. No, it
nation.
sounds like a lot of what I do. what is when you're asking these guys, the distributors, how do you filter out, if you do, how do you kind of choose, okay, this guy is actually doing what I need for this product? And so, how do you kind of decipher that? Just relationships or?
I think the top two things are, what are they currently selling?
Mhm.
So are they a rep that's in the room all the time, or are they selling an auxiliary product where they're at the hospital maybe all the time, but not in the OR? That's one. Second is, it's how they approach you. The term of land grab. So you call someone like, oh yeah, I'll sell your product. I'll take states of Connecticut, Mass, Rhode Island. Like, no, no, unless you have 30 sales reps, there's no way. And I'll even say to someone like, as a spine rep, I didn't know foot and ankle guys. I didn't know ortho people. So I call on spine. I used to joke around that if I saw an ortho guy on the ground, I'd walk over him because I know who he was. Whereas, a spine guy, you pick it up and carry where we're going to go kind of thing, So, here we go. Where do you want to go? You know your niche, your specialty kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's, make sure they're in a specialty that works for you. And then it's based on just a conversation and a gut feel. For the most part, I think at this point, I'm fortunate where we do certain contracts or we do facility contract in a specialty. So you kind of hone it out and then you give them time. Now, VAC committees today, that could be, if you're lucky, 90 days. I mean, if you're really lucky, you got a strong surgeon who somehow gets in your product. But again, it depends on price point, what's required by the facility, there's reimbursement, all those hassles kind of thing, GPOs, all that stuff rolls together. So obviously there's people out there that can, help you get through VAC committee and all that. And there's just different resources, but there's, again, just like finding people, there's not one thing that's going to set someone up. I think if someone is a land grab person, I know they're not legit. That's just to me. I just know that. Like, and they say, oh yeah, I want these 5 states. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. There's no way you're covering every surgeon in those 5 states. Like with Corex in particular, it's everything. It's foot and ankle, ortho, and spine. So anyone can use it, and even oral, maxillofacial surgeons can use it and harvest and use the bone. So it's the good side is everyone can use it. The bad side is everyone can use it. So it's hard to find that niche to find the right use.
Yeah. What kind of trends have you seen with 1099 reps? Have they been the same type of person, the same type of organizations since you've been doing this, or have you noticed any changes?
No, I think without getting anyone in trouble, the art of the side hustle is 100% of what goes on these days.
Mhm.
But many reps are tied to some other corporation, whether they're a W-2 or something, and that's on them, not on me. Like that, and or any organization approaching someone else. But the side hustle is out there. Many reps may not do something in their discipline, and they may have a side hustle in a different specialty. But a lot of reps do work for other corporations, and then they end up, selling something that the corporation doesn't offer. I mean, you really don't want to sell a competitive product to yourself. Although
that
that
would
would
be a
control the market, I guess. So that's one way.
Depending on how long you can do that before you get caught.
Exactly.
That's a really real statement. And I do see that. I've had those conversations where I've seen people looking for side projects. And what do you think is that? There's a lot of economic factors, I would say, for that. Obviously, more is more for profit, but people didn't used to have to do that, or they weren't as many looking to do that, I would say, that I've seen. So has compensation been dropped for some of these reps, or what's going on there, in your opinion?
Well, it's both sides. You've got the pressures of a corporation to stockholders. Then you've got the pressures of a hospital to its own board or its facility. So now they're trying to cut their costs and get as low as they can. Then you come back with, as stockholders looking for profit margin. If you've got legacy people, they may reduce the number as far as commission rate. I mean, so the commission rate could come down. As if you go in for, say, a spine case where, when I first started, one level spine case with inner body was probably $10,000 to $14,000. I think today it's $2,500. So even if you just made the same amount of commission, like say 10 points or 20 points, you got to do more cases just to make up for that. So it's like a 3-to-1 scenario. Couple that with the idea that, commission rates are coming down for corporations where it could have been 12% in the past. Now it's maybe 8 or 6. They might give you a draw. So that's a benefit for working for a corporation. But then, you've got to sell a lot more to make up for that number.
Mhm.
And now, like in spine, there's probably, I don't know, 110 screw makers. So you've got the big boys, of course, the big players. But there's so much competition out there, and there's so many people trying to sell a widget to the surgeon that it starts where you start almost commoditizing the specialty products, and that in turn brings the price down, which is good in one sense because it's good for the economy. then it's bad for us who live on making a percentage of the sale. And, look, I'm a salesperson and by heart, and I'm a sales guy. And even though I'm an engineer by education, I do chase, an income,
Of course. Yeah.
and everything that I sell, I get a percentage of. And, if you, when it goes lower, then you look at it and go, okay, that company wants to cut the rate by 10% or even 50%. You're like, I gotta sell twice as much as to break even on the company. And now with us as reps, I mean, we're getting beat up by credentialing and,
Yeah.
rep scrubs or, like you have situations where they've increased prices on credentialing, but I don't really see any extra service out of it. Still some person I'm faxing or emailing a piece of paper to and they hold it for me. I mean, I just had a case where my insurance ran out on the day of the case. And I signed in, and halfway through the case, I get a message that I got dinged for signing in because my insurance ran out. Well, my insurance was good until midnight of that day. I had my binder already set up to upload, but they didn't look in the thing. So I actually got like, decreased point value because my insurance ran out that day.
Yeah. No, that's the credentialing and rep scrubs. We're gonna have to leave for
That's a
another
whole
day.
conversation. That's a whole panel. That's a whole panel. But I think it's no matter what, we're still in a great industry, but you have to have patience, the ability to ride it out, and hopefully whatever company you're with matches you as a person. And that's the hardest part. Like me, I'm not a good farmer rep. I'm not a good caterer. So like that's not me. That's just not me. I'm not a cheerleader. Like this face is not a cheerleader face.
PB&J for everybody.
Yeah, So, like when I was an Omnicef rep, I'll never forget, I was in pediatric office and I'm waiting for my turn to go in to get yelled by the doctor or get a signature or whatever. And this little kid's like, "Hey, mister, why are you so mad?" And I go, "What?" And he's like, "You look mad, mister." I go, "This is my normal face." His mom's like, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I go, "Oh, no, I know. I know. If you don't know me, I look mean, but those who know me know I'm fine. But if you don't know me and I'm sitting there, I probably look like the ogre." So,
It can help and hurt sometimes, I guess. Well, yeah, I mean, this has been a great conversation. And first of all, I think a lot of people who are in this job have the exact same pain points, and then your journey is going to echo a lot of that and what they've had to do. What do you do besides, counting your gray hairs and being grateful to stay resilient as you go through all these bumps and changes in the industry?
I never take it personal. I always try. I enjoy learning, so I'll chase a new widget. I think it's I'll find some new product and try to see where it mixes into into the group of where I can sell or try to sell. And there's been times I've taken a product line and totally failed. It happens.
Mhm.
That's why I said earlier, like you and your product have to match, or you and your company have to match, and you match with your surgeons. I think again, I go back to my partner. I'm lucky my wife allows me to do this in a sense because I think other people, the way my income has gone up and down, she gets it and she knows it's the highs are high and the lows can be low and we've done okay, and I think I definitely enjoy what I do, even though there's days I get up and like, oh, but then when you get your time, and I think, there's a guy on LinkedIn I follow, Jeremy Adler, and he's been doing a lot of posting about golf and it's the same thing with golf. You play 18 holes, you go out there and you shoot 100, but you had one good stroke and that made your day
Yeah.
or one good hole, and that made your difference. Depending on your skill level, whether it's a stroke when you really stink, or if it's a hole or two when you're still learning and still stink, that's the thing. You have to have that win and take the win, and, I say this and it might offend some people, but I say like I'm too stupid to go in some other industry. But it's because I like what I'm doing. I mean, I've done manufacturing, I've done tech sales, I've done, factory automation sales. I've done those things, and they are more linear in fashion. But I think this one's fun because of the challenges. It's like it's the biggest Miller Hyman blue sheet you could ever have, trying to find all the roadblocks. And I think you just gotta be willing to go for the challenge. And there's some talk about the fact that, most of us in the industry have some kind of athletic background. And I was a former rower in college. A lot of guys I have competed against in the field are either NFL, NHL, high level athletes, pro athletes. A lot of NCAA college athletes are in this industry. And I think it's because we are competitive. Right now I kind of joke around. My mind thinks I can do it, but my body says, "Oh, not so much, not so much. Cut that out." So we have resilience and we
Yeah.
have the ability to just keep moving forward.
That's a great answer. I mean, celebrate the wins and the joy of it, the competition of it is, I think, what drives a lot of people too.
And the
This
win
has
isn't
been
always a big paycheck. It's not always a big paycheck. It's just
right.
the win could be like, meeting a surgeon or having the ability to just have a conversation with someone. Or, I actually, on occasion, I'll text Dr. Jeffrey Rowe up in the Northwest in Seattle area. And I actually went to a Stryker lab many, many years ago and connected on LinkedIn, and he gave me a cell phone. I don't abuse it, but I'll ask his opinion about something. And to me, it's like, it's great that this guy actually responds to me. Like, I don't sell to him. I haven't sold to him ever. I never actually directly sold to him, but I can throw a text out there and, hey, what do you think of this? Nah, that's not good for spine. Or what do you think of that? No. But it's just great to have that connection or even that ability to like reach out to someone and just get an opinion, I think that can be cool where you get to do that once in a while.
It is. It's very cool. And then sometimes you just do things for the love of the game of it. So, selling something where you might lose money after all the time that you've spent getting it in.
Well, there are days when you're like, really? I went and covered that case and I got this much? Well, that doesn't work.
Yeah. I've been there. All right, Ed, man, I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to what you said you're working on down the road. So hopefully we can have you back to talk about that.
Good.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
All right.
Thanks for listening to the Independent Rep Podcast. If you got value from today's episode, please follow, share, and leave a review. To connect with John or learn more about succeeding in medical device sales, visit theindependentrep.com. Until next time, keep grinding, keep learning, and stay independent.